Hey everyone, welcome back to the Creative Marketing Show. I promise there will be no spoilers in this episode. I am going to be chatting about some of my favorite things that I have learned from one of my favorite shows, Ted Lasso. Again, if you haven't watched the show yet, I won't be spoiling anything, but please watch this show. I find that there are so many lessons in the characters, in the storylines from this show, all about grace, gratitude, forgiveness. And I think it's just one of those human shows that everyone should watch. And when it comes to our business, I think there's a lot of really great takeaways, and I'm going to share and expand on those today. So let's just jump right in, talking about what we can learn from my favorite show, Ted Lasso.
Hey, I'm Angela Doyon, and this is the Creative Marketing Show, the podcast for ambitious women in business looking to cut the BS, stop dancing for likes, and learn to create honest and genuine marketing strategies that don't cause burnout and overwhelm. Think of me as one of your friends that's here to support you and cheer you on while keeping you up to date with all the latest marketing trends and inspired actions you can start to implement into your business. Let's dive into a new episode.
All right, so full disclosure, I'm lying in bed right now. You can probably hear in my voice, I am on like day 8 of trying to get my voice back. I had a whole plan to do some batch recordings last week, but I had zero voice, so please forgive me for this nasal sound in your ear. I promise I won't keep this episode too long, but I am excited, and it's one I've actually been wanting to do for a while. So as I mentioned in the intro, Ted Lasso is one of my absolute favorite shows. I've watched it in its entirety 3 times through. That's how much I loved it. So I won't be spoiling anything today, but I encourage you. It is one of those incredible shows where you can learn so much. And I started seeing these lessons that I think can really pertain to our businesses. And there are some incredible lines from the show, and that's what I want to share today. I've got 5 quotes here from Ted Lasso himself, and I'm going to kind of expand on them. And I'm hoping that by the end of this episode, that this is going to provide a lot of grace for yourself, a lot of confidence. If you've been kind of rolling the waves up and down in your business as you're trying to grow it, sometimes we just need these little reminders that we're doing our best, we're doing okay. So I'm hoping that that's going to be the takeaway for you today, because I've been there. It's not a small feat to run your small business, especially if this is a new business for you. So I'm really hoping that you can smile at the end of this and trust that you're doing your best. And we're going to always have these ups and downs, but to keep going. So the first quote from Ted Lasso is, "Taking on a challenge is a lot like riding a horse. If you're comfortable while you're doing it, you're probably doing it wrong." And I love that. I can personally say in any great advances or successes or big wins I've had in my own business, it's usually coming from a place where I did something maybe out of my comfort zone. Now, I will say I don't like pushing people to go so far out of their comfort zone, but the things that do scare us, and a lot of the times that scarcity or that fear or that angst that we have is because it's something new. And so, of course, if everything is easy, everyone would be doing it. And if we want to experience growth, we do have to push ourselves outside of our comfort zones and embrace the challenges and the bending that we need to do, because otherwise we can put these limitations on ourselves. So unless we're really willing to really try to break out of those limitations and see how far we can push ourselves, we will never really know. And I do think that that's where a lot of growth can come from, by doing something extraordinary or something that we're not usually used to doing. I'll use an example, even just putting out this podcast. I will say I hesitated for quite a few months after I wrapped up a previous podcast I was a part of. And I thought, okay, to do this solo, like, should I? I don't know. Is anyone going to want to hear me speak? Can I even step up to the mic and talk for that long? And I'll say, as much as I love podcasting and I love this platform, there are times when I'm like, should I post that? Like, does anybody really want to hear it? But so far the response has been really good. We're going to make mistakes, but I'm really glad. It's actually funny. Some of the episodes that I've ever hesitated to put out there, like hit record, share my thoughts, and actually broadcast it out publicly, has made me feel a little sick to my stomach. But those are the ones where I've usually received the nicest feedback. Like, thanks, Ange. Like, in my DMs, I have had that happen so many times. And I'm like, wow, I almost didn't share that episode. So thank you for the feedback. I'm really glad. So that's just an example of sometimes we do need to get ourselves outside of that comfort zone. So if that challenge, if it's like riding that horse and it's too comfortable, we got to make some changes. The next quote that I really enjoy is, it's very simple: be curious, not judgmental. And I really enjoy that because that could be in relation to business. That could be trying out a new social media platform. That could be collaborating. That could be thinking, oh no, I'm never going to do that. That's not how I should do it. So instead of judging something before you actually, immersed yourself in it, be more curious. And I think that that's so important. When I hear that quote, I really think of my son. He's 8 years old. And when we look at children, they're just so naturally curious. And I find that they're less likely to hesitate. There's like this certain age of young kids and they don't judge. They're just, it's like when, you see you're with your kids, or if your nieces or nephews or friends' kids, and they don't really have a lot of a filter. And so it's funny because sometimes it can make us uncomfortable when kids say something. I'll never forget. Actually, I'll share this story. When I was a server in a restaurant years ago, I remember this dad came in with his 2 little girls, and I came by and I offered them, can I get you something started, something to drink? And he ordered a Diet Coke. And his daughter, who was probably 5 or 6 at the time, interjected and said, "Why aren't you getting a beer, Daddy?" And she looked right at me and said, "My daddy loves beer." And it was so funny, and he was so embarrassed, but there was nothing to be embarrassed about. And it's just so beautiful with children that they don't hesitate. There's no filter. And I think that that really lends well to no judgment, but be curious. So finding those ways where you can get a little bit more curious in your business, I think that also leads to that first quote of them maybe trying new things and getting out of that comfort zone. The third quote I want to share is, "It's funny to think of all the things in one's life that can happen just because a fella's shoelace came undone." So obviously Ted Lasso, it's a football, if you're in North America, it's a soccer show. And it's just so interesting. I love that piece of what we can take away from that. Sometimes we're going to have these setbacks. I've personally had it where I've launched something and it's crickets, or put out a podcast. I'm like, oh, I didn't get as many downloads as I thought it would, or creating a new program or offering and it falls flat. Sometimes we have to look at it as just a shoelace coming undone. We can always retie. We're going to have setbacks, but not to be disheartened by it and not to let it, completely set us off our course. I think by making mistakes, and some things are in our control, and to this point, some things are not in our control. And for someone like me, who's kind of naturally a little bit of a control freak, I'll totally admit that, it can get really uncomfortable and it can get really frustrating. So don't let those little setbacks completely derail you with your goals. Sometimes they do need to happen to help us course correct. I know I've certainly experienced that time and time again, and I get it. It's frustrating, but when we can act with resiliency and not get ourselves down about it. So think about a time, maybe something recently, something this year that you weren't expecting, and in the moment felt like, oh my gosh, this is a huge failure. This is never going to work. Or maybe you start to doubt yourself. Just know that one, you're not alone, but how can you course correct or look at it as a lesson and maybe even a sign that that wasn't meant for you? So just keep that in mind. Okay, I have two more. I promise this won't be too much longer because I'm tired of hearing my nasal voice, and I'm sure you must be too. So if you're still listening, thank you so much for getting past this horrible voice I have right now. Okay, the fourth quote, and I really love this one. Success is not about the wins or losses. It's about helping these fellas be the best versions of themselves on and off the field. Now, obviously, that's very much related to a coach saying that to his teammates, but it's a really good reminder when we think of our businesses. We do celebrate our wins, we have our losses, we make money, we spend money, we have all these things that pertain in our business. But the reflection in this quote, it's really, like he says, success is not about the wins and losses. It's about helping these young fellas be the best versions of themselves. And that's the same thing for us. We want to show up as the best version of ourselves. And similarly, the people that we work with, the communities we serve, the audience we show up for, the clients we have, the customers, we want them to have the best version of themselves. I can't even speak. Oh my goodness. I'm going to keep rolling. So how can we really, look at that? Obviously, we want to have these successes. We want to do well in our own business. But if we're continuously showing up with honesty, integrity, and grace, and we are the best version of ourselves, we can lend that to the communities, the clients, the customers we serve for them to do the same. So if we're, focusing too much on the highs, the lows, the wins, the losses, just remember that we're building our character and to always focus on how is this helping us grow and to become better and the best versions. So one thing to just keep in mind there, I really love that quote. Honestly, like I said, I'm recording this in bed. I might have to take a little break while I'm resting this afternoon and just binge watch more Ted Lasso. Okay, so I'm going to share the last quote, and it's my absolute favorite. And if there's one you can remember from this episode, I really hope it's this one. You know what the happiest animal on earth is? It's a goldfish. You know why? It's got a 10-second memory. Be a goldfish, Sam. If you haven't watched the show, oh my gosh, Sam is the cutest character. So be a goldfish. Again, this kind of wraps up a lot of what I've been speaking about in today's episode is we're not always going to have the unicorns and the rainbows and the winds and the whole hunky-dory smiley. I know that social media, when we see that, a lot of people celebrating their successes, I guarantee you behind that, there are mistakes, there are losses, there are failures, there are blips, there are glitches, there is all the things. And I love that quote. It's something I try to always remind myself. It's the same thing when I look at my son, where if something happens, like didn't have a really good first day at school, and it's like, let's be a goldfish. 10 seconds, like how can we move forward? That to me is the epitome of like perseverance. We can let things manifest. We can hunker down and think about them until it just drives us crazy. But when we can get really good at really pushing those things out of our mind and knowing that these next 10 seconds are fresh and new, how can we build momentum and keep moving forward and not rely or dwell on the bad experiences, the mistakes, the failures, the losses? And so that's what I want to end with is whatever is happening in your business, when those moments come, those frustrations, maybe those embarrassments, anything, just be a goldfish, reset, and keep moving forward, which is probably leading into like another great movie, Finding Dory, and like just keep swimming. I'm not trying to sound like Ellen DeGeneres, but it's a goldfish. It relates. I'm making it work. So I'm going to leave you with that because I don't have much voice left, but I have committed to showing up on this podcast every Wednesday, and I was not going to let this cold and nasally voice stop me. I really wanted to share this. I had been thinking about this every time I watch the show. I'm like, gosh, there's so many lessons and I want to talk about it. So let me know what you think of this episode. If you have tuned into Ted Lasso, I mean, there's so many reasons why, not just Roy Kent. If you know, you know. So check it out and just remember these quotes from today and know that you've got this. And when all is said and done, whatever is happening, be a goldfish, keep going. And I hope you enjoyed this episode. Lastly, I will remind you that we have some great trainings coming up inside the Creative Marketing membership. It's gotten a little bit of a makeover, nothing too crazy, but now each month we are aiming to have 2 guest experts or at least 2 special trainings to support you in your business. And rolling in through October, we have our clarity and connection calls with me. That's where members get access to me. They can come with their questions. We can unpack situations. We can come up with some strategies, creative marketing ideas. It's all hosted over Zoom, so everybody gets to see each other. It's a really nice supportive way that we can connect and get more clarity. But our live trainings that are coming up are going to be amazing. We have special guests coming in talking about branding photography. So if you're looking to really make new updates, or you've got photo shoots coming up, or just some tips to take some images of yourself, this is going to be a great training. And I also have someone coming in talking about your Google business profile. How can we get better rankings on our Google profile? This is something we haven't touched base on inside the community. So that's going to also be a live training coming in up in October. And November is also going to be jam-packed. So if you want more details on joining the Creative Marketing membership, you can go to creativemarketingmembership.com, or you can check the show notes for all the details. It's less than $10 a week to join. There's no commitment. You can cancel anytime. But I have a feeling once you get inside, you're going to really enjoy all the goodies that are there each and every month. So I hope you will join me over there. Otherwise, I will be back with a new episode next Wednesday. Thanks so much, everybody, and enjoy your day.